My country blues just did not sound right to me for years. When I tried to play Mississippi John Hurt or Blind Blake tunes, something was just missing. And that missing piece? Muting. Without good muting, notes blur together and your playing just doesn't bounce. But you can master a few key techniques to help you get that bright, snappy country blues sound that we're after. So in this lesson, I'll show you 5 muting techniques from beginner to advanced, and we'll start with the easiest one. Let's dig in. When you're playing solo acoustic blues, you're the whole band, and the palm mute helps give you that kick drum thump that really helps drive the groove forward. It's important, but fortunately it's not too difficult to get down. Here's how to nail it. This example has a palm mute applied to the 6th string. Let's see what it sounds like without the palm mute. The 6th string really takes over, and for times when you don't want that, let's take a look at how to get the palm mute going. If I move my picking fingers out of the way, you can see some of the saddle peeking through. That's the white part that sits on top of the bridge where the string contacts the guitar. Now, if I move my thumb, notice that you can't see it near string 6, 5, and maybe just a little bit on the 4th string. That's because I've got the palm mute in place, and it covers string 6, 5, and 4. Now, how am I doing that? I've got the palm of my hand. This part right here is resting on string 6 and just barely rocking forward to cover string 5 and 4. That's my default picking setup for a lot of country blues, which helps me play pieces like you just heard with that dull thumpy sound on the 6th string for sure, but even, and you'll see we'll use this later, for strings 5 and 4. And that's the palm mute. I've got just enough pressure on those strings that I can get that thumpy sound while I'm working my way through a country blues bass line. But importantly, the other strings don't have the palm mute. Hear how they ring? So we want to focus that palm to just touch 6, 5, and 4. Those are the string numbers. Basic muting techniques like the palm mute are essential for controlling your sound, but they work best when your foundational picking skills are solid. And that's why I created the free Finger Picking Quick Start Guide. It covers the essential movements that you're going to use every time you play acoustic blues, and they're perfect for working on your muting technique. You can grab it at the link in the description. But now, let's look at selective muting, controlling specific strings while letting others ring. This is surgical control, keeping specific strings quiet while letting others ring freely. You can use it to clean up muddy chords or as a little bit of an insurance policy against wrong notes. I never really loved this voicing of a G major. It's a bit too majory and there's a little bit of mud in the low end, and that's whether you fret it this way for strummers or even this way for country blues. Either way, I like to take out the 5th string 2nd fret B note so that we end up with this sound, clearing that mud out of our way. Let me show you how I do that. So notice my index finger is playing that B note on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. Now if I just lift that up, I'll expose the open A, and we'll get a note that just sounds bad. So what I'm going to do is roll back just a little bit and touch that 5th string with the pad of my middle finger here to mute that out. And now I can get that big G5 sounding chord without that mud in the low end. And another reason to have this sort of ability to rock back and touch a string to mute it out comes in giving yourself a little bit of an insurance policy against the wrong notes. Let's take a look at that with this F chord. So we'll play the triad on strings 4, 3, and 2, and then we'll hook our thumb over the top of the fretboard to play the 6th string 1st fret. That gives us our F in the bass. And we'll often do a 6-4 alternating bass line. And on 2 and 4, we can push through and do a little thumb strong through that triad. Now here's the thing. If I'm not muting and taking care of that 1st string, I could push through and get an E on top, which gives us an F major 7. It's a nice chord, but it's not what we're looking for here. So to take care of that, I can use that same idea that we used over G, but in this case, just rock back slightly with my index finger on the fretboard so that it mutes out the 1st string. It's a little insurance policy, making sure that we don't hit that unwanted note, no matter if I brush through a little too hard. Here's what we get without that that touch mute and width. The touch keeps adjacent strings quiet with light contact, but your fretting hand can do a whole lot more. With just a couple of subtle moves, we can make your rhythm sound tight and punchy. Two moves here: the bounce to add punchy staccato effects to your fretted notes, and the cover to mute ringing strings instantly. Together they bring rhythm and control to your finger picking. This muting technique is taking place entirely on the fretboard. My picking hand isn't even applying a palm mute here. To take a look at this, let's remove the thumb hook and just focus on strings 4, 3, and 2, the G major triad. If we play these notes together, the notes ring out just like we expect them to, and we can mute this by simply lifting up, but maintaining contact with the strings. Maintaining contact means that we are stopping them with our fretting fingers from vibrating. And we're no longer pinching the string from behind the fret, right? If you lift all the way up, you might get some string noise. We don't want that. If you lift up slightly, you get this sort of squeeze and release, which to me kind of looks like a bounce on and off the fretboard when you're playing, and it kind of sounds bouncy to me as well. But what happens if we're playing a chord, like say this C major that has an open string or two in it? Our bounce won't stop those strings. They're gonna ring. Notice I'm kind of bouncing with the chord so that bass line still has that punchy, bouncy sound, but we've got all this ringing happening. We can combine this technique with the next one that I like to call the cover. What's happening here is when I need to mute that open string, I'm laying back on the strings to stop it. You got to get used to kind of collapsing your chord and then coming back. That's what's happening. We're just rocking back and then standing back up in place. And you can see how these two work together. You can see my fingers kind of squeezing on and off the fretboard, but then also I'm laying back to stop that third string from ringing. We've covered some solid muting techniques and they can take you far, but there's one more, one that took me forever to unlock that helped me get closer to that Mississippi John Hurt sound. Here's how it works. Your picking fingers rest on the strings that you're not using. When you need a string, lift that finger to switch that light or that note on. And when you're done, put it back down to switch it off. This is how country blues players really get that clean and precise sound with clear note separation that just sounds snappy. Our example is going to be built on solid thumb control, by the way. And if your thumb needs a little help, remember you can grab that free finger picking quick start at the link in the description. But now here's the light switch technique in action. Those short and snappy notes on top are what we're looking for, and we can use the light switch muting to help us get there. Let's take a look. This part has us going back and forth between the second string and the first string quite a bit. And if we don't pay any special attention to muting, those two notes just ring out over each other. And that's okay and can certainly be what you want at times, but here we're looking for those snappy melody notes. So to do that, what we're going to do is bring a finger back to the string to stop it from ringing the second we switch to the other string. So we're only hearing one at a time. Bringing your finger back to the top of the string just completely stops it from ringing, right? We don't need two fingers to do that. We can just see that right here. But when we combine it with the other one, we get this sort of on-off, one note at a time. And this takes some practice to get, for sure, because you're asking a finger to come back to the string to just stop and do nothing, but just hold its place, right? So you want to stay close when you're picking. And when you can get this into a pattern, it really adds to that bounce. Here's a complete example using these muting techniques pretty much throughout. Watch out for the palm mute and how it gives us that dull thump in the bass. You might have to look pretty closely for the touch controlling those adjacent strings, but the bounce and cover along with the light switch, it's all there. So premium members, you're going to find complete tab and the interactive tab player for this. Just look for lesson ID TB504 in the library and look out for the extended cut coming later this week where we do a slow walkthrough through this example. Earlier, I showed you techniques like the light switch muting that helps you get that clean country blues sound, but there's something that a lot of us miss, and it's not about muting. So watch Tuesday Blues number 483 next, where I show you how to make these techniques really groove, and I'll see you there. Until then, practice smart and play on.